There's a lot of mixed opinions about napping. Are they good? Are they bad? Do they even work? Well, I think they can definitely work, but you have to do them correctly. If your nap is you going to sleep at one time and you have no clue what time you wake up and you're super groggy and you have no clue what happened, then that's not the best way to nap. The biggest thing to remember with naps is they have limitations. But when you really know the limitations, then you know how they can actually benefit you. So first off, are naps bad for you? Well, no, they can't be, because this is how humans evolved. Our ancestors would literally nap every day. And it's literally ingrained into our DNA. And our circadian rhythm has a basically nap programmed into it. It's called the postprandial alertness dip. This is also why we feel so tired in the afternoon. You know, like after you have your lunch, well, it's normal to be tired after a big meal, and that's a different reason. But our circadian rhythm literally has a dip in the afternoon, meaning our bodies are wired to go to sleep for a little bit in the afternoon time. So if you have a big presentation or a work meeting to do, and you wanted to choose a time, I would probably avoid doing it in the afternoon, unless you wanted no one to hear it. Unfortunately now, because of how things have modernized, it's pretty much impossible to have a nap in the midday or in the afternoon. Unless you work from home, then that's a different story. But right now, most humans have what's called a monophasic sleeping pattern, which is when they go to sleep for one long bout, like 7 to 8 hours, and then they wake up and go on with their day. But if you look at hunter-gatherer tribes, which is a great glimpse at how our ancestors used to live, for example, the Gabra tribe in northern Kenya, they have a biphasic sleeping pattern. They sleep about 7 to 8 hours at nighttime, but then in the midday and afternoon time, they have about a 30-minute nap. Also, other tribes show something similar. For example, the Hadza tribe in Tanzania. They do it a little bit differently though. In the summer, when it's hot, they have a long bout of sleep, and then in the afternoon, they have another short nap. But then in the winter, when it's colder, they just have a single bout of sleep that's just a little bit longer. Okay, so if naps aren't bad for you, how can you do them correctly? Well, it comes down to two main things: correct timing and correct duration. So typically people use what's called a power nap when they are sleep deprived. They just want to do a quick nap when they're tired and then go back and do whatever work that they're doing. Now for some people, it's a daily nap that they're doing. Now we're going to get into that too. But to understand the best way to do a power nap, we should really be studying pilots, because the term power naps came from studies on pilots. Because pilots have to go long periods of time, sometimes 36 hours, with being awake. So before these studies on pilots came out, the FAA, or the Federal Aviation Authority, was asking what is the best time and best duration that these pilots can nap to maximize their efficiency when they have to be awake for so long. Now this was studied by a sleep researcher named David Dinges. So to keep it simple, he found that the best time to take a nap was at the front end of a period of sleep deprivation. So in other words, if you know you're gonna pull an all-nighter, it's better to take that nap at the front end of that all-nighter before you basically stay up all night, versus pulling the all-nighter and then doing the nap. He found that if you front load the nap, it kind of acts like a buffer, and it can really prevent memory lapses and lapses in concentration. In the study, they found specifically that the pilots that took the nap at the front end, they had a lot less of these micro sleeps, which are brief lapses in concentration when your brain basically turns off but you're still awake. And they were comparing this front load napping versus napping in the middle of sleep duration, and also napping at the end of the sleep duration. So at first this was called prophylactic naps, because you're not really tired yet, you're just doing it prophylactically, or in other words, just to prevent issues in the future. But then the FAA said that's way too soft, we need to change the name, so then they called it power naps. So if you know you're gonna pull an all-nighter and you're gonna have to stay up all night working on a project or something, it's better to take a nap before that all-nighter versus doing that whole thing all night and then trying to nap after. Now ideally, we would never have to rely on this, but if you're gonna do it, it's better to do it in the beginning. But this is the problem, because many people started hearing this power nap and they started thinking that this brief 20-minute bout of sleep can replace an 8-hour sleeping window at nighttime. And many people think that they can just take this 20-minute nap and then combine it with some caffeine and then get through the day. But no matter what you think or what you've read, there's no way that caffeine or any other drug plus a power nap can replace the sleep you need at night. Power naps can definitely help when you know you're gonna be sleep deprived, but you shouldn't have to rely on them all the time, especially when you combine it with caffeine. So now we know the best way to plan your naps if you know you're gonna be sleep deprived. But what about the timing of it? Well, in a nutshell, you don't want your naps to be too long, you don't want them to be too short, and you also don't want them to be too late into the evening. So ideally, you would keep your nap in the afternoon time and under 90 minutes. Because when you nap or anytime you sleep, you are clearing away some of the adenosine in your brain. Your adenosine is basically this sleep molecule that builds up the longer you're awake. And your adenosine will cause sleep pressure, meaning the more adenosine that you have, the more sleepy you will feel. So the longer you've been awake, the more of this adenosine that you get, and that's why you feel more and more sleepy. So if you nap too late into the evening or for too long overall, then it's gonna eat up too much of this adenosine. So that way when it's time to go to sleep at nighttime, you might not have as much of that urge to go to sleep, and then you might struggle sleeping in general, and this can mimic something like insomnia. Also, if you nap too long, like longer than 90 minutes, then your body might transition into REM sleep. Your REM sleep is part of your deeper sleeping cycles where your body starts to dream. This is really hard to wake up from as opposed to a quick 20-30 minute nap. You don't need a full sleep cycle when you're napping. All of your different sleep stages are super important. And if you just get one of the first two, then you're still gonna benefit a lot from that nap. So how long should you do? I recommend doing between 20 and 30 minutes. 20 minutes is more ideal, but I always say 30 minutes because sometimes it takes you a little bit to fall asleep in the first place. Now, naps can also be a great tool for memorizing things or learning things like a new instrument. So when you nap, it also clears some storage space in your brain. So throughout the day, when you're learning new information, this is your short-term storage and it's stored in your hippocampus. But when you go to sleep, those memories from your hippocampus get taken to your cortex or the outer region of your brain. And this is basically where your long-term storage is. Now, your hippocampus has some limited storage. There's only so much you can learn at once. But if you take a nap in the middle of learning something, then it's gonna help consolidate those new memories and also free up space to learn new things again. So this is a study from the sleep researcher Matthew Walker. He took two groups of healthy young adults. One group was taking a nap and the other group was not. So initially, all the people underwent some sort of learning. They would look at a bunch of face name pairs. So they would look at a face and also try to memorize the name with that face. And after learning, both groups took a test to see how much they memorized, and they found that both groups' results were similar. Then one of the groups took a 90-minute nap and the other group stayed awake. Then later in the evening, they underwent more learning. So they looked at more of these face name pairs. And then they had to take another test again, and they found that the group that did not nap did much worse, but the group that did take a nap actually did 20% better. So I hope you know now how you can start to use naps to your advantage, whether you're going to become sleep deprived or whether you're in college and trying to learn a bunch of information for one of your exams, or if you're just taking a nap on the regular every day. Well, I'm gonna show you exactly how you can unblock your nose, whether you're sick or your nose has always been blocked and you've never been able to use it properly. So first of all, the reason that your nose is blocked is most likely because your nose has been dormant. When you don't use your nose and instead you breathe through your mouth most of the time, then your nose